is the
Free Talk Live.
Well, hey there, it's Free Talk Live. And as always, you're invited to join us here on this live Saturday edition of the program. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And Mark.
So to start things out here this evening, we're going to continue on the path that we began last night, looking closely at a very sick situation. A disturbing, violent psychopath went into more than one mosque in New Zealand early yesterday, basically our time. It was, 12 hours or something like that, 14 hours ahead there. And slaughtered at least 49 people as of the news reports that I saw last night.
They say the number's gone to 50 now.
Yeah, not a surprise. Just absolutely horrifying. We had the video footage that was apparently uploaded to DTube, which means it will not be able to be taken down by various different so-called authorities in this case. And I did watch that footage last night during the show, during the breaks. We didn't play it on the air, but it's pretty horrifying to watch this person live streaming via what I believe was like a GoPro mounted to whatever headwear that he was wearing. So it was sort of made to look like it was a video game almost.
This guy appeared to really be into the idea that he was going to be an internet celebrity once this was all over.
That seems to be his intention. He had a 74-page long manifesto,
which was contradictory and sort of kind of like reading a bunch of memes.
It was filled with memes, apparently. A lot of them from 4chan, and apparently it was posted on 8chan as well. He made a statement about how he wanted this slaughter to result in U.S. gun laws being tightened. So therefore,
but he made a lot of crazy statements, like saying he supported the fascist Chinese dictators and like all kinds of weird things that he said.
Yeah, who knows what this person actually believes? I mean, it's hard to really say. I didn't read the whole 74 pages.
I mean, 4chan is a place full of what the internet calls S-posters.
Yeah, S-posters. Right.
And
what's an S-poster?
Well, a person who basically says things for the purpose of reaction.
Just getting the lulz.
Yeah, in it for the lulz, and that's laughing. The laughs. In it for the laughs, and it. I don't know what this person was really trying to achieve. Who knows?
Well, the claim was, from what we reported on last night, the claim was that he wanted the U.S. gun laws to become more strict.
That is a claim
as a result
amongst a whole bunch of other claims that he made, yes.
And he believed that would then create a civil war, which is this thing that people have been calling this show about for the last, year or so. There's been these rumblings of a civil war.
No one's really talked about a civil war in the U.S.
Oh, yeah, they have. The people that have called this show?
I understand. I'm not done with my statement. The period had not yet been put on that sentence. Between Muslims and non-Muslims or whatever in the U.S.
What, as I understood what he said in his 74-page manifesto at one point, was that he wanted the gun laws to create a civil war between the sides of the gun freedom advocates and the people who wanted to control guns, which would somehow spiral into a race war. Now, it wasn't really clear exactly how that would be, and this is what we tried to figure out, last night, is how do you get from guns being the issue of a so-called civil war to that somehow turning into a race war? It doesn't make sense to me, given that people of all different races have guns. So, that doesn't follow to me. But then again, sense is not something that this person is particularly good at making. He's crazy. He, obviously is a psychopath and has no empathy for other human beings, as he slaughtered dozens and dozens of people.
If he was on 4chan, he's probably a young person, doesn't really understand how the world works either.
28 years old.
Yeah.
And apparently also had a gun license in New Zealand where this happened.
So licensed concealed carry permit holders in the United States are incredibly safe people. Whereas I guess, this guy's either an anomaly. Well, he's an anomaly.
Well, there are going to be anomalies in every group.
There are, absolutely.
So, but that is an interesting thing.
It's worth pointing out that licensed concealed carry permit holders in the United States are, I think the number is a tenth as likely to be convicted of a felony as a police officer who are, I think, 100th as likely as just sort of your average citizen. So when one suggests taking guns away from licensed concealed carry permit holders, one is talking about disarming the safest population around. It's also worth pointing out that this guy used a semi-automatic rifle. He could have been taken out by somebody who happened to have a gun in their waistband, potentially. They certainly sent people with guns after this guy to take him down. And, you know, but those people have badges, so their guns are special.
Now, it says here, I guess I'm not clear exactly where this guy was from, the alleged shooter, or it doesn't have his name in this article. Wait, I had it in front of me last night. Gene, the Christian anarchist in our Discord, is saying he was from Australia. How does an Australian get a New Zealand gun license? I don't know if he was from Australia. I'll take your word for it, but that's the claim that I've heard, was that he had a gun license.
Oh, that's CNN's got it right here. Yeah.
So here's a story from the New Zealand Herald over in New Zealand that
because it'd be really strange to call any place else the New Zealand Herald. Yeah.
The crowd in attendance at a vigil at Auckland's Aotea Square cheered loudly when Attorney General David Parker said the government would ban semi-automatic rifles. He warned of a global rise of extremism, saying, quote, "There is a dimming of enlightenment in many parts of the world. How can it be right for this atrocity to be filmed by the murderer using a GoPro
and ban GoPros
and live streamed across the world by social media companies? How can that be right? Who should be held accountable for that?"
I don't. What's that have to do with semi-automatic weapons?
Well, I think he just wants to blame anybody he can put blame on besides the individual lunatic who did this. Oh, well, it must be Facebook's fault. And don't get me wrong, I'm no fan of Facebook. But it must be Facebook's fault for making this possible. If only they wouldn't have allowed him to broadcast, then he wouldn't have been able to show the world what it was that he was doing. And I fail to see, and we can address the gun ban proposal here in just a moment, but this is a surprising proposal as well. We need to restrict live streaming.
Well, he's not exactly saying that. He's just saying somebody needs to pay for this going on. I'm angry, and I want somebody to pay for it. Well, I'm sorry. In this planet full of these unhappy primates that we call humans, there's some of them that are going to do stupid things. And the best thing we can do about that is be able to protect ourselves from those people. You can't do that with police. Police are not a protection squad. They are a cleanup squad for people who have committed crimes. They're supposed to come in, file reports, take away the bad guy, that kind of thing. They're not like this roving shield wall that protects you from bad stuff happening. That the only thing you can do in that circumstance, I suppose, is to arm yourself.
Which you can't do if you're in New Zealand, for the most part.
Not legally.
Yeah, for the most part. In fact, you were saying to me before the show that apparently they arrested some gun carriers who were in the vicinity, ostensibly for not legally carrying guns.
Right. This is from the police chief guy here, New Zealand Police Commissioner Mike Bush. One additional man was arrested. This isn't the quote part. One additional man was arrested in the aftermath of the shooting, but police said they don't believe he was involved in the attack either. Bush said the man was helping get children to safety, but that he armed himself, which is not the right approach. Now, this one guy that they're holding up...
It's insane to say that.
Absolutely. It's completely insane. This other guy, Abdulaziz, 48, who is apparently, this hero who drew fire from the gunman running through cars and that kind of thing, picked up one of the gunman's guns. So he armed himself also. I'm not sure if that's the same guy they charged.
Okay.
But he might be. But he certainly did arm himself.
I would love to hear more from that police officer as to why it's not the right thing to do to arm yourself in a mad gunman situation.
He didn't have a badge. He didn't have a badge.
Because I can tell you, having seen this horrific video, you will either get shot and die as you are cowering and waiting for the police to show up, or you will get shot and die as you are trying to run away. Because if you don't have a gun, those are your two options, right? Like, you can either try to run at the dude, which one dude did. There was one guy in the early part of the video who made a run at him to try to stop him, and he didn't make it.
Heroic.
Yeah. You're going to get shot if you don't have a gun. That's just a guarantee at this point. This psychopath showed up with a bunch of ammo and multiple guns, went back to his car at one point to get another gun, went back in and shot at the bodies. This is Free Talk Live. It's the live Saturday edition of the program. We invite you to join us if you want to comment. Doesn't have to be on the New Zealand tragedy, the horrific murder of approximately 50 innocent people, just gunned down in cold blood by a lunatic who apparently spent way too much time on the internet and believes he's some kind of an internet hero as a result of this. He's, by the way, still alive. So in many of these mass shooting situations, either the person kills themselves at the end or the police take them out. But this was New Zealand. So the police aren't quite as, as I understand it, in a lot of the other countries of the world, the police aren't as, militarized and gung-ho in a lot of other places. Remember, Mark, we've talked about, I think it was Iceland, for instance, where, they've had like one police-related killing in 50 years or something ridiculous.
In the history of the country, the country's relatively new. So, yeah. And the police went to the funeral.
Of the guy who shot the
brought
cop,
flowers.
Right?
Well, the police shot and killed him. He had a shotgun, and they shot and killed him.
Right, but they went to that guy's funeral, the guy who killed the police officers.
He didn't kill any police officers.
Oh,
he
sorry.
had a shotgun, and they shot and killed him.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
Right, no problem.
I misunderstood that.
No, I mean, what they were trying to show is that, look, we're not out here trying to kill anybody. It's just that sometimes you have to shoot bad guys, and sometimes you have to shoot bad guys.
Yeah, and in this case, I think if this were the United States, I don't know if this guy would have survived whatever encounter with the police he ended up having. Now, the video footage that we looked at last night only shows him slaughtering innocent people at this first mosque. It doesn't show, or what I presume was the first mosque, one of two mosques. It does not show the other mosque. And there are allegations that at one of these two mosques, which I believe would have been the second one, that his killing spree was shortened dramatically by a legal gun owner who apparently shot at him and made him run off from that situation. Now, that is not being reported in the mainstream media that I've seen.
It's very difficult to get a handgun permit in New Zealand. Vanishingly difficult.
I don't know if it was a handgun or a rifle or whatever it was.
Where are they going to get a rifle from?
I don't know. If you've got a rifle permit, maybe you keep it in your truck. I don't know. Look, it's just what I heard, Mark. I don't know if it's true. I'm reporting it as hearsay, but it is interesting nonetheless. So there's a lot of things that we can talk about in relation to this, but first, let's talk about good bumper stickers.
Yeah, LibertyStickers.com. I love their stickers over at LibertyStickers.com. We've got one here that says, "Make taxation theft again," in the sort of run of the manga
it's
red
always
and white.
been theft. I'm not sure what
I understand, but it's making it illegal, basically. Make Orwell fiction again in the same font.
That's cute.
Yeah, it's good. Sure, you can trust the government with an Indian with a headdress on right next to him. And then here's one that's appropriate for today. The strongest reason to keep and retain the right to keep and bear arms is as a last resort to protect the people's thrown in there somewhere, for the people to retain their right to keep and bear arms as a last resort to protect themselves against tyranny in the government. Thomas Jefferson, with a bust of him alongside. So if you want to see these they're great. I mean, you can just scroll through these things. LibertyStickers.com. It's LibertyStickers.com.
So beyond just the horrors of this event in general, and of course the inevitable gun control discussion that always, bubbles up around this particular issue, which we can talk about all of that. There's a story at the New Zealand Herald where they're talking about banning, as you would expect, in this case, semi-automatic weapons. So apparently it's already pretty much a difficult thing to get even just a semi-automatic pistol, but it may actually be easier to get semi-automatic rifles in New Zealand. This is according to what you were telling me before the show, Mark. But before we get into that, the story in the New Zealand Herald by Jason Walls opens up with a quote from the Attorney General David Parker, who says, "How can it be right for this atrocity to be filmed by the murderer using a GoPro and live streamed across the world by social media companies?" And so I wanted to talk about the free speech aspect of this case. I don't support what this person did. This person is a lunatic, a psychopath, and a killer. But I do think that it's not a bad thing that the video is out there. I don't think that's a bad thing, because I don't recommend people see the video, because I wouldn't want somebody to I wouldn't want to recommend somebody to go and watch other people being killed.
These things are awful.
Right? Like, we've seen some of these ISIS videos in the past, and they're absolutely terrible and horrible, and people shouldn't watch them for your own mental health. But I think that they should be available, so if you do want to see what this is like, that you can see it. And it's to some extent the news media sanitizes this stuff. They're in the United States, at least, and it's not true in all media in all countries. Okay, so in some places, like for instance, when we were in Mexico recently, I forget who we were talking to, but I think it was one of the folks who lives down there pretty frequently, and they were saying that in the media in Mexico, they'll just show the bodies.
Yeah,
if somebody gets killed in a drug
hit,
right, a drug hit, drive-by or whatever, and they're out there in the square or town square or whatever, and the news media shows up, they're going to take a picture of the actual body and publish it. It's going to be there on the front page. And to some extent, I think that drives home the reality of death and lunatics and what they are capable of. I don't think that I don't think it's a bad thing inherently that this video is available for people to see online. Now, you're probably going to have to do a little looking for it.
My reasoning would be different.
Reasoning for what?
What?
In
supporting
favor or?
Supporting the right to publish.
Okay.
First off, if you make it so that this braying jackass talking about social media platforms are putting this stuff up and getting views and
I guarantee you they took it down. Guarantee you Facebook took that down.
They did, but imagine how. Okay, so if we know Facebook has the ability to allow you to live stream. Well, now we're going to take that away because some politician wants to cry about how it makes something happen or whatever. Look, I'm sorry that some small percentage of the population's a bunch of lunatics, but please don't take away a product or service that I may want to use. I don't know that I've ever live streamed. We have here in the studio, so they're on the show, but in my life I have not. But
we live streamed it when you got your hair dyed.
Okay, you live streamed
I did.
Me.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I got it dyed green for a charity. But, we're going to take this away because somebody very unlikely, might use it as a terrible thing. What, 1 out of a billion times it gets used, it's used in a terrible fashion? Well, that's a bad reason. That's not how you handle things. You don't want the kindergarten teacher to go around slapping your kid in the mouth, every kid in the classroom, including your kid in the mouth, because one of them says a dirty word. That's not how we handle the world. That's how small people handle problems. Okay?
Yeah.
Like if you can't handle governing in a fair fashion, you can't handle governing, and you shouldn't be suggesting this stuff. Now, if the average person in the street says it, well, yeah, you're taking the opinion of an average person. They're idiots. You already know that. You shouldn't be listening to their opinion on how to run society. By the way, I don't think the average person should get a vote, including me. Why are we? I don't run around taking a poll on how do you think the brain surgeon should handle my brain surgery coming up. I look to experts on things, but it's just ludicrous. This politician's just talking out of both sides of his mouth.
He's totally pandering. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. If you value freedom of speech, if you value the freedom of the media, then you should fall on the side of allowing video like this to exist. Your thoughts are welcome. It's Free Talk Live.
The Bitcoin.com wallet is a simple and powerful full-featured wallet that allows you to send and receive Bitcoin, BTC, and Bitcoin Cash, BCH, with anyone, anywhere in the world. It supports both single and multi-signature wallets and is available in multiple languages. The Bitcoin.com wallet is available on Windows, Linux, Mac, Android, and iOS devices. Use the Bitcoin.com wallet to buy, send, store, and receive both Bitcoin, BTC, and Bitcoin Cash, BCH. Learn more at wallet.bitcoin.com. That's wallet.bitcoin.com.
It is Free Talk Live. You dial toll-free, bring up anything that you want here. Our number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. And we've got the Discord on-air call-in line rooms. They're open and available to you over on our Discord server. It's discord.lrn.fm. And by the way, the Discord is where you can interact with other Free Talk Live listeners, both before, during, and as well as after the show. There's people there basically around the clock, and it's free. So
there are.
That's right. Go to discord.lrn.fm. You can interact with our listeners there. Some of the hosts also spend some time there as well. Once again, it's discord.lrn.fm as we go to your phone calls and thoughts, talking about the horrific shooting of approximately 50 innocent people, at least the killing. There may have been more shot than that. I'm not sure how many were injured. This man, lunatic, 28-year-old, who apparently was a legal gun owner in New Zealand, just blasted away at innocent life, defenseless innocent life, because you basically can't legally own guns very easily, especially handguns in New Zealand. Now they're proposing banning all semi-automatic guns, period, in New Zealand. We can talk about that. But the first part of this story is this...
semi-automatic rifles, but I mean that would be including semi-automatic handguns, right?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't actually gotten into his statement about banning semi-autos. He's first, the Attorney General, complaining about the fact that this was live streamed, that there was video footage sent out live over Facebook Live of this lunatic on his killing spree. And that was where I wanted to start this discussion, because, again, we did talk about this last night, but we can take your calls about anything here, is the idea that if you care about freedom of speech, you should support this video being out there. Now, Facebook can make whatever policy they want. They're a private company. If they want to have a takedown policy of no violent, videos allowed on Facebook, that's fine. That's their prerogative, as a private organization. But ultimately, if you have a live streaming service, some people are going to use that live streaming service for very untoward and inappropriate things. And ultimately, I don't think there's anything wrong with this footage being available out there.
Right. I don't see anything wrong with Facebook having terms of service. I don't see anything wrong with people being able to report something that violates the terms of service. And I don't see anything wrong with Facebook taking down something that violates the terms of service. When the government says you may not, that's when I have a problem.
Right.
Right? Like revolutions get fought over these ideas. And to cavalierly suggest that somebody should not be able to do it, whatever it is. Because remember, you don't need freedom to live stream. You don't need the freedom to live stream the recipe you're making, or you out in your garden picking flowers, or your kid.
Unlikely those things will be banned.
Yeah, your kid eating a cupcake.
These are popular videos. These are things that are not at threat, not being threatened to be erased.
What you need protection from is the ability to stream or to say or do whatever for unpopular opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that people want to take away. And I'm not saying that, that people that I don't want to protect people's right to shoot people by any stretch of the imagination. But I think that you got to be able to, once it's happened, once the video's created, there's no additional victim.
Let's go to your calls and thoughts. Our toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. Can share your thoughts with us. It's Jerry listening to WVTS in Charleston, West Virginia. Hello, Jerry.
Hello, fellas. To start with, I've never heard of this guy. He may have, 1,000 friends or so. How many people actually knew that he was going to broadcast that? I mean, it's not like he advertised it to the whole world and we were all sitting around waiting for it, right?
No, I think he posted a link on 8chan, which is, one of these anonymous message boards.
Right. Okay, the other thing about that is, you can find that all over YouTube right now, even though they said that they weren't going to allow it to be posted.
Oh, really?
And guess who's posting it?
I have no idea.
Muslims from overseas.
Okay.
That's where, I don't want to call them terrorists. I don't want to call them radicals. I don't know what they are. But I downloaded a copy, and I can't read a thing because it's in Arabic, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So
right, you don't know what's being said
they are,
surrounding it.
Say again?
You don't know what's being said surrounding it, but...
exactly.
Presumably, they're not so happy about it, I would imagine.
Right. I mean, if there was a video of Muslim running around shooting middle-aged white guys in America, middle-aged white guys in America might want to consume that video a little more than most folks. So I'm not surprised.
What I'm saying, wait a minute. What I'm saying is those people are up. They know what's going on, and they know that Facebook and others do not want that video posted. So what they're doing is continuing to post it every chance they get, and as soon as it's taken down, they find another way to post it.
Good for them. They should do that.
Okay.
Don't you support them in doing that?
Who do I?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
And I'll tell you why. Because I was a newspaper photographer in the 70s when all of a sudden the editors across this nation decided to become a kinder and gentler newspaper. And what they did back in those days, and I was part of that, if there was an incident, say, where someone was hurt pretty bad and that person had blood on them, this was the early days of the first computers. And they would have us go in and remove as much blood as possible, so as not to offend the audience. Okay,
ridiculous.
And you guys are way too young to remember this, but the number one tabloid back in the '60s was the National Enquirer.
Yeah.
And they made their bones on bodies cut in half from railroad trains and all kinds of gory pictures, okay?
I didn't know that.
Before they went okay. When I was delivering newspapers as a 13-year-old in the early 60s, it wasn't unusual to find a body every week or two along my route at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Jesus,
people
where
died,
were you?
And usually these were drunks or people that got mugged or whatever they were. Now, today, the news has become so sanitized that this generation today and the previous generation has no conception of death whatsoever. The only time they see a dead person is if they go to a funeral. And a lot of them don't go to funerals anymore. They go to memorial services.
Yeah.
So these people today have no concept of serious injury or death because they're not exposed to it. Thank you very much.
I think you're spot on that, Jerry. Great call. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us here. I appreciate the professional background.
Everything I see from this generation online is always talking about how they want to die. They're looking forward to death.
Really?
They wish it wasn't so painful.
Wow.
That they wish that they hadn't existed because it would be easier than dying. That life is somehow terrible. I just got 12 hours of sleep and I'm still tired. That's because you didn't wake your butt up after 8 hours.
Well, it's nice to see people supporting this. There are probably somebody out there who thinks these things should be restricted. If you want to dial in, you're welcome to join us at 855-450-FREE. Now, again, if you want to voluntarily choose to not watch these things, that's fine. I totally respect that. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend watching them. They're disturbing and horrifying, but at the same time, things like this should exist because, as you pointed out, Mark, if you care about freedom of speech, it's the unpopular speech that needs to be protected. It's the disgusting speech. It's the vile speech. It's the racist speech. It's the horrible, violent, terrible, awful, terrifying, insensitive speech. The stuff that people don't want to hear. That's what needs protecting. And similarly, video is also a form of speech. That can show some very disturbing footage, but ultimately it should be legal to have. It's evidence of a crime. You should not be convicted of a crime for possessing evidence of a crime. You should not be in legal hot water for it.
Yeah, I think that this is one of those situations. I used to watch all these videos. I felt that it was my job as a talk show host to
did it wear away your soul?
Right. Take the bullets, as it were, the proverbial bullets, the fictitious bullets for my audience, and be able to.
I was grateful that the one that I watched last night was in 240p, so it was like basically VHS quality or lower. It wasn't a particularly good quality because it was horrible. I mean, the dude was shooting at people who were lying, and dying basically. Yeah. Just absolutely horrible. I mean, the whole thing was awful, but it just kept getting worse. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. More on the proposal to ban semi-automatic weapons in New Zealand as a result. You're welcome to comment on that or whatever happens to be on your mind. You can take control of the airwaves here at 855-450-FREE, like freedom. It's Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live. You can dial in toll-free to bring up whatever you want. Our number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Well, if the government of New Zealand decides to ban semi-automatic rifles, is that going to solve the problem of mass shootings? They want you to believe that it will, but I'm going to tell you right now, it won't. Because you don't stop psychopaths. they are determined people.
Gun laws are basically victim disarmament laws.
Yeah. That's the reason why this guy was able to kill 50 people, because no one in the area had a gun. Until there were apparently he did allegedly encounter somebody later on that had a gun, but I've yet to be able to verify that.
The police arrested a guy for arming himself, as they said,
and then shamed him publicly for
and
it.
said that he shouldn't have done that
after he was trying to protect children.
Right? They said he was trying to protect children and armed himself and arrested him.
Yeah. So toll-free number here, 855-450, free like freedom. Let's continue with your calls and thoughts. Oh, and by the way, I do want to make sure you know about helpmetakebitcoin.com. It's a new website by the good folks over at AnyPay, who have been helping people take Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies like Dash and Bitcoin Cash and Zcash for coming up on 2 years. I think they started in August of 2017, so a year and a half of AnyPay helping merchants, real life merchants, accept cryptocurrency at the point of sale. So if you've been thinking about taking Bitcoin, but you've been not so sure, you're not too sure about the process, how difficult is it? It's actually super easy, and they'll walk you through it over at helpmetakebitcoin.com. That's helpmetakebitcoin.com. As we go to Barry, listening in South Carolina. Barry, you're in Columbia, listening to WQXL. Go ahead.
I'm listening to WVOC.
If you're in Columbia, you're listening to WQXL. But go ahead with your thoughts.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I get my AM and FM mixed up.
No problem. Go ahead.
But you men are 100% right. This is a horrible tragedy. But the previous caller alluded to the fact that the people who keep putting this back up on social media, and I don't deal with social media much, but if that is indeed social media where this keeps appearing, that it's the Islamists that continue to bounce it back up there every time it's taken down. We always have to remember that on 9/11, we lost approximately 3,000 people, I believe it was.
I didn't lose anybody. Nobody I knew was in that building.
Well, nobody you knew was in that building, but they were American citizens, most of them.
What's the point?
Well, the point is that, the American people didn't keep putting that up and putting that up and putting that up on social media
kidding?
every time it was
we see it all the time.
First of all,
have social media.
Yeah, first of all, social media didn't exist at all in 2001.
Why shouldn't we? Answer that question.
That's an entirely different question.
You should put it up over and over again.
Well,
you should put it up.
It is not.
Let me ask you this. Are you familiar with Iranian Air Flight 655?
No.
Okay, I bet you aren't. Because on July 3rd, 1988, the United States fired a surface-to-air missile and shot down a passenger jet. It was USS Vincennes. Now, we never hear about that. We never hear about the hundreds of civilian people that were blown out of the sky. And
listen, I'm not defending anybody, and I'm not accusing anybody. What I'm saying is there's a war going on in this world right now. And these things are going to happen, and it's going back and forth and back and forth. And publicity is one of the biggest issues in the whole thing. Yeah,
you're right. Publicity absolutely is.
So, but wait, we agree, right?
Like this eye for an eye thing is going to make the whole world blind.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's not necessarily an eye for an eye thing. Things are done for different reasons. Who knows what the reason was that the Islamists decided to hijack planes and fly them into the World Trade Center.
Power and control.
And try to fly them into the Pentagon.
I've got the answer for you. Power and control. Power and control. It's always about power and control. Likely those Islamists felt like the United States backing up the government of Saudi Arabia and backing up the governments of Israel. They were upset with that because they couldn't institute a revolution.
And what about this guy over in New Zealand who feels that, he's being invaded?
He wants to spark a civil war is what he wanted. Now, have you looked at his 74-page?
Nonsense.
Have you?
Nonsense. I totally disagree. because there are.
Have you read the 74-page manifesto or any portion of it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well then you don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I don't?
Yeah, you would be uninformed on that one particular issue. Now, you can have an opinion while being uninformed.
All right, I stand uninformed.
Okay.
But I do know that these countries are being used to have immigrants from these Islamist countries come in, and it's part of the plan.
There's a plan?
I may not be involved. I may not be informed on this one.
It's an Islamic conspiracy theory, Mark.
Go ahead.
That's what he's laying out for us.
But I just look. I mean, I can totally see why somebody might want to get out of Syria or Iraq or Iran or any of those places.
Yeah.
I mean,
wouldn't you?
Compared to the United States, it's a crappy place to live.
They're not looking to get out of their countries. They're looking to invade other countries.
Ridiculous.
And increase the
How many of them have you talked
to?
Yeah, that is wildly insane.
Oh, wildly insane.
Yes!
Okay.
The idea that these people are somehow mindless myrmidons following their government's admonitions to leave their country and come to the United States. Go have a better life for yourself. Run a convenience store. What?
Yeah, they're owning the convenience stores here in Keene, New Hampshire, and somebody I was talking to the other day was complaining about it. I'm like, what's the problem exactly? Are you upset because they're better business people than you?
Maybe Americans don't want to work those hours.
I don't get it. And look, if the claim is, if your claim is true, Barry, and that there's this, horde of Islamists coming into the United States or New Zealand or whatever.
All you have to do is look what's happening in Europe right now.
Where's the violence? Where
what's happening in our
is the terrorism? Where's the terrorism?
There's plenty of terrorism in Europe.
In the United States. He's saying they're invading the United States, these hordes of Islamists with this big plot. With this big plot, I want to know where the terrorism is. Excepting the Boston bombing, okay, you could point to that
one guy that put that van full of explosives.
Are there not no-go zones in where are the no-go zones?
Those are
Sweden.
Those are alleged. Those are alleged. There's no real evidence for it from what I've seen.
Up around Chicago.
Yeah, the whole city of Chicago.
Right. There are no-go zones in Chicago, but they likely are not populated by Muslims.
Yeah, well, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for the call, Barry.
You guys have fun with
We are going to have fun. We do it every night. Thanks for the call.
This is, to me, just more of the same, right? Like, this is all about fear.
That's what his call was about.
Fear.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's all about. This guy that was doing the shooting, more fear.
He wants you to be afraid too.
The Islamists posting, the Islamists posting this online, fear. It's all generating fear. And why? Because humans are easy to make scared, and once they're scared, they're easy to control.
Sure.
I'm not going to be controlled by these people on either side. I'm just not interested in it. Like politicians. The government, they make their bones on turning people against each other. When you are scared of somebody, when you have an enemy, the government can say, they're my enemy too.
You need us.
One of the sides will say, they're my enemy too, so therefore I'm your friend, listen to me. While I screw up the government.
Just do what I say.
Let's say it's the Republicans for a second that are the enemies of the Muslims and the friends of those that are scared of the Muslims. Let's say that for a second. Then you turn over the government to the Republicans, and what do?
Build a wall.
They side with the oil companies, do cocaine off the hookers' butts on oil derricks. Read the news story. This crap happened. I mean, the Bush administration, sorry folks, was bought and paid for by large corporations who took your government away from you just that much more. You're at $22 trillion in debt.
That's a myth. It was never your government. They didn't take anything
I understand that, but the people listening believe that it was their government.
They just continued the same scandal.
Right. It's the same scandal over and over again. I got you. But people listening believe that the government is their government.
Well,
they believe that we
the
people crap.
That's crap.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
It's always been crap.
As you continue to give the politicians your fear, they will continue to take government from you. You've got nothing. That's what it is.
The toll-free number tonight is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Whether you want to comment on the New Zealand slaughter, the shooting down there, or whatever's on your mind, you can take control of the airwaves. This is Free Talk Live.
You love Bitcoin. It's the future, right? Well, no, not if everyone stops using it. I mean, think about it. How many places in your town take Bitcoin? One? None? Let's be real. If this Bitcoin thing is ever going to happen, it's going to need your help. The good news is, the guys at AnyPay have your back. We built a website called helpmetakebitcoin.com, and it's a place you can send any business, and they'll be set up to take Bitcoin in 5 minutes. helpmetakebitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and we're doing the second hour now of this live Saturday edition. We got time for you. If you want to join us here on the radio, our number is 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. New Zealand government agents talking about banning semi-automatic rifles, apparently now. It's Ian and Mark here in the studio tonight. We'll take your calls and thoughts. This, of course, in the wake of a massive slaughter of innocent people. Apparently, at least 50 have died at the hands of what appears to be just one gunman at this point. Even though some other arrests have been made, news that has come out since then has shown that those people may have just simply been other folks who were armed either legally or illegally in the vicinity of the shooter, not anyone else who was actually involved.
And the government
dislikes
dislikes that so much that they've actually arrested one guy who armed himself and was saving kids.
That's right, and then they shamed him publicly for it.
Yeah.
So we can talk to you. Our number 855-450-FREE. Let's go to the phones, to the fun. We've got Mike in Virginia Beach listening to WNIS. Hello, Mike.
Hello, guys.
Hey. Welcome.
Listen, I just want to tell you I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
All right.
Well, what are you going to do about it?
What are you mad about?
Well, I'll tell you something. There's something that needs to be banned even more than guns do, because these items have affected me personally, as well as millions and, in fact, billions of people around the world, and these inanimate objects have hurt literally millions and millions of people and continue to do so on a daily basis.
Cigarettes?
They need to be banned. How's that?
Cigarettes?
No.
Tell me, what is it?
Forks, spoons, and knives.
Dangerous.
That's why I'm overweight.
You could put an eye in with that stuff.
Those dadgum forks, spoons, and knives, those inanimate objects have got to be banned.
So what you're saying is you have no self-control whatsoever, and you need the government. You need the government to come along and make a better life for you.
Not saying that at all.
Exactly right. I'm blaming it on the forks, spoons, and knives. It has nothing to do with me.
Right. You didn't pick up the fork. It just did it all on its own.
Last night I ate more than half a pizza by myself. I didn't use a fork or a knife.
That's a good point. Ban hands.
Well, that's about the same logic as banning an inanimate object.
It is.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point. You're absolutely right. You know, these are tools that in many cases, in most cases, are used for self-defense. They're used for people to save themselves from a violent act being committed or to save another person
more than
from
a million times
act.
a year in the United States, according to a government report from the 90s.
Right, and that's it's a tough statistic to negotiate.
It's the only one we've got.
Right, because you never know how many times it's really used. You could say maybe at least a million, because a lot of people don't report. If they pull a gun on a criminal or would-be criminal in a dark parking lot and scare that person away, no shot is fired, then that's not going to, in a lot of cases, they're not going to call the cops to let them know. They're just going to go home after that.
If that was in Chicago, we'd better be careful.
Well, there was a famous actor that said one time, and I subscribe to his quote, "Out of my cold, dead hands, you can have my gun."
Thank you, Mike, for your call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Let's go to Bill, listening to WIBC FM in Indianapolis. Hello, Bill.
Hey, how are you guys tonight? Thanks for taking my call.
Go ahead.
And thanks for letting me pick your brain.
It's all right.
Just for a second.
Please.
It sounds like Trump is an absolute fool.
What now?
For not using this to pivot and say, this is more of an immigration issue for New Zealand. The guy was from Australia, right? Shouldn't we be taking a better look at people coming in instead of looking at it as a gun issue, I think we're all kind of missing the mark.
Well, that would have stopped it, right? Instead, he'd have had to have shot up in a mosque in Australia instead, if he couldn't move to New Zealand, right?
Well, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Is it a gun issue, really, or is it an immigration issue?
No, it's a psychopath issue is what it is.
Yeah, restricting humans from traveling across political lines isn't going to stop crime.
No.
Right, and I've listened to you guys before, and I kind of figured that would be the way. Thanks for taking my call and let me get in there.
Thanks for being here, Bill. Appreciate it, man. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. We continue. Sydney is listening in Indianapolis, also to WIBC-FM. Hello, Sydney.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, what's on your mind?
I'm listening to this segment about New Zealand government wanting to ban automatic weapons entirely.
Semi-automatic, just to be clear. Yeah.
Weapons. One, it's not a gun issue. It's not an immigration issue. It's a people issue.
Mm-hmm.
We are living in a society right now that has completely desensitized our youth to death in its entirety. Like, I'm 21 years old, and I grew up watching kids that I was babysitting playing first-person shooter games, and they were watching this quite realistic vision of death in front of them, and they were completely unfazed. We are creating this this mentality that we shouldn't fear guns, that we shouldn't have a respect for guns. And I think by saying, oh, well, guns are the issue, guns aren't the issue. You take away the gun, the man still has a fist. He still has a knife. He still has a will to do harm. It is about teaching society how to properly help one another and not instilling fear in one another, because the one singular thing stronger than fear is hope. If we can instill hope in one another that we can create a better tomorrow, that we can educate one another, that we can love one another based on the simple fact alone that we're all human beings, then we'd have a better society. But that's in an idealistic, perfect world.
I like what you're saying there. I like the idea. And, Mark, you touched on fear as a real detrimental concept that governments love to spread. These hate groups love to spread fear.
Yeah, pretty much any organization wants to set people apart. I tend to agree with what you say, too.
And the opposite,
I would like to point out that crime has gone down over time. Violent crime has gone down over time, that we actually have fewer shootings and fewer people are dying from gun violence in the United States.
Despite the violent video games.
I couldn't tell you what's going on in New Zealand. I'm not an expert at that, but even with violent video games, I understand where you're coming from. I mean, I do think, when I was a kid, we'd watch the Bruce Lee movies and run around trying to karate chop people, right? So I'm not going to say media has nothing to do with these things. At the same time, what we can see is that crime's gone down as first-person shooters have gotten more popular. I'm not entirely sure that we can. I wouldn't want to blame it on this generation. I don't want to blame it on those sorts of things. What I do want to say is that I mean, we do have to education's the way to look here, and as people feel they're being ostracized from society, they're going to lash out.
I mean, I think it's interesting to say that it's desensitization. I would be very cautious to blame any kind of media, whether they be video games or violent movies or anything like that, because psychopaths have always existed, and these are people who have no empathy for other human beings. So if there's anything that's been desensitized, it is humans being desensitized from the humanity of their fellow man. And that's being done by these hate groups, by the governments who want you to believe that the Islamists are your enemy, or they want you to believe that, fill in the blank.
Well, some fat kid living in his mom's basement who goes on 4chan is your enemy.
Apparently now that's the case. Yeah, I don't know if he was fat, but did you see a picture of him?
I didn't see a picture of him, but I mean, the idea out there is that there's this angry white male that is bubbling, just ready to bubble over at any moment and take down your. I mean, I saw memes just like that, and they're out there. They're if you think you can figure somebody out by looking at them, you probably have strayed off in the wrong direction.
Sydney, good call. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us here tonight. Our toll-free number for you is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We've also got our Discord on-air call-in line rooms that are open and available to you. And we've actually got a couple folks on the Discord, so we're going to get to that here in just a bit. You can jump into the Discord over at discord.lrn.fm, and that is where the conversation continues both before, during, and after the show, so be sure you check that out. It is a free, one of the myriad of free services that you get here from Free Talk Live. Those other talk show hosts, they want to charge you for accessing their websites. Ours is free. All the archives that you can download, that you could possibly listen to. Video footage from the YouTube channels, Twitches, and all that. Head over to freetalklive.com as we continue with your calls and thoughts on not just the New Zealand slaughter, this horrifying killing that's been going on, but your calls about anything are welcome here on Free Talk Live. Open phones every night. 855-450 free. It's Free Talk Live. You dial on in toll free, bring up whatever you want. Our number here is 855-450-FREE. It's brought to you by Bitcoin.com, your premier source for everything Bitcoin related. It's an exhausting website. There's actually a lot over there at Bitcoin.com. But if you're brand new to Bitcoin, check out their Bitcoin Academy. It'll help walk you through some of the basics. And there's also instructions on how to choose a Bitcoin wallet and buy Bitcoin. And they'll show you where you can spend your Bitcoin. You can read the latest news or engage with the community on their Bitcoin forum. Just get on over to Bitcoin.com. It's not too late to get into the world of cryptocurrency. Even though Bitcoin did cross $4,000 per coin, I think that was earlier today, that sounds like it's out of your reach. Well, it's okay. You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. If you want to get into crypto in Bitcoin, you can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. You can buy as little as, $10 or $20 worth, depending on where and how you do it. So head over to Bitcoin.com to get started as we continue with your calls and thoughts. We'll go to Gene, the Christian anarchist, on the line here on our Discord call-in lines. Go ahead, Gene.
Yeah, I wanted to go a little bit down that road Mark brought up earlier about fear being used to control us.
Yeah.
And part of that is this fear of immigrants. And I want to take on two of the major arguments against allowing Islamic immigrants into this country. Number one, they say, they're going to multiply and have more kids than us, and they're going to outnumber us. And number two is that their children are going to be Muslim terrorists. Number one, with the multiplication factor, is it's not because a guy can have 4 wives or whatever, that they can have more children. It's really not the case, because offspring are determined by the number of women available, and the number of females. That's true in any husbandry or farming or whatever you do. It's not dependent on the guy. It's dependent on how many women there are. So if you only have one woman and one guy, they can only make so many babies, right? And he can't have 4 wives if there's only one of each immigrating into the country.
One guy and 4 women isn't going to have more children than 4 guys and 4 women.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, but anyway, this whole idea that just because they're allowed more wives, they're going to have more children, it doesn't even.
Well, legalize polygamy. I mean, look, if that's what the fear is, then let the Mormons start to have a bunch of wives or whatever, or whoever it is that wants to have multiple husbands or wives. They should be free to do that too. Anybody of any religious belief or none whatsoever should be able to do that. Here, even if it's true, let's accept as true that the Muslims are having more kids than the Christians are. Where's all the terrorism exactly? These people have been coming here for decades. So, those kids have grown up.
Anyway. Yeah, but it can't be true anyway, because 50% of the population is women and 50% is men. So, I mean, sooner or later, somebody's going to not have a wife because somebody else has 2 wives.
But I'll say this.
It works out that way.
Muslims definitely are not afraid of having a bunch of kids. I mean, Will Coley, who has been a co-host here on Free Talk Live, he's got 5 kids. I mean, as far as the people that I know in my life with children, Will Coley has the most children.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw someone in the mall today that had 6 kids, and they were not Muslim.
Okay.
So, and the other thing is this idea that their children are going to become terrorists.
Right,
they're going to become extreme Muslims.
Because that's ridiculous.
This is ridiculous. I mean, we have a lot of patients in our clinic who are Muslim immigrants. Mm-hmm. And they come in to us, the parents can't speak very good English. The kids come in as translators. Guess what? The girls that come in as translators, the young girls, they're not wearing hijab. Grandma may be wearing a hijab, but the kids are not wearing
the headscarf.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing, I guess, from head to toe. But the young,
there's a few
the young
types,
Muslims. Yeah, the young Muslims will maybe have a modest headscarf. They might be wearing a dress that goes above the knee, and my wife will even say to him, "Well, are you supposed to be wearing that?" And she just kind of shrugs, because the young people always rebel against the parents, including Muslim young people. Always, this has been the case.
It's the way of the world
since time immemorial. Young people rebel against their parents. So to think that the young Muslim kids are all going to grow up and be terrorists is absolutely absurd. Now, there might be one or two, but then there might be one or two white people that grow up to be terrorists too. So
Guess what?
This
Psychopaths exist within all religious belief systems, and they're still a very small minority of any one of them.
The fear is a tool used to divide us so that we don't concentrate on the true enemy of liberty, and that's the Goonerment.
Yep.
It always is the Goonerment. It's never your next door neighbor. They can't take away your liberty. So,
absolutely.
Well, they can vote.
Yeah, for whatever good that does.
Well, voting doesn't take away your liberty. That's just what people do to try to control the government. The government and their demands and people's obedience to them is what destroys liberty.
Well, let's not forget what the government is.
It's
the government
is
people. Right.
That's
and
right.
So it's people's obedience to people.
Yeah, that's what it is.
People who are no better
arbitrary
than them.
rule of other human beings whose S stinks too. Thank you, Gene, for your call tonight. That's Gene, the Christian anarchist. He hangs out on our Discord and sounded great, almost like he's sitting here in the studio with us, which he has been known to do in the past. You can go to the Discord server and join him over at discord.lrn.fm as we continue here. Let's go to Pat in Michigan. Pat, where are you calling from tonight?
Northern Michigan, just by the Thunder Bay, top of the mitten.
Excellent. Welcome. You're on Free Talk Live.
All right. Well, I just retrieved from my archives. I must have gotten it in the mail a long time ago. A movie called Obsession.
Okay.
And it is the radical Islam's war against the West. All right. And basically, what it comes down to, as far as the numbers, there's 1 billion Muslims in the world. 15% of them have been radicalized.
Where'd you get that number from?
And, well, off this movie.
Okay.
And what year was this movie made?
I'm only about 30 minutes. I'm only about 30 minutes into it. No, this all seems pretty factual. I mean, they're showing clerics and their rants and the hatred and the
I'm sure you can find that. I wouldn't claim that you couldn't find that. I just don't. 15% of 1 billion people is a lot of people.
Yeah, there's no evidence that there's that many people who are...
and they're spread all over the world. So there's basically small war fronts everywhere.
I mean, who was it that made the claim? 15%.
I don't know. This thing was mailed out of New York, believe it or not. I can't believe it.
No, I'm asking you, when you were watching the movie, you said you watched a half an hour of this movie that you called to tell us about, called Obsession, and that the claim was made that 15% of Muslims have been radicalized. I would like to know who made the claim.
I didn't.
Was it somebody who was being interviewed in the movie? Was it the narrator of the film?
No. It was probably a quote from some news, or I don't know.
So you don't know. So this is one of the things that you got to be careful with. Okay.
All I'm saying is this thing was seen on CNN and Fox.
It doesn't matter to me where it was shown.
9/11.
Yeah, sure. It just sounds like straight up propaganda. Okay, and that's what documentaries are all about. And I say that as somebody who is a documentary producer. Okay, thank you, Pat, for the call tonight. I appreciate it. When you make a documentary film, there's a certain narrative that goes along with that documentary film. Most documentaries aren't known for, presenting both sides of an issue in a fair light. And so if somebody makes a claim in a movie, that doesn't necessarily mean that claim is true. Just saying. 855-450-FREE. You can bring up what you want on Free Talk Live.
Go to themorganreport.com and receive updates and insights you will not find anywhere else on the web. You will discover how to grow and protect your wealth under all market conditions. The Free Morgan Report provides interviews, webinars, question and answer sessions, plus mind-blowing videos. As David Morgan says, let my passion create your wealth. TheMorganReport.com. themorganreport.com.
This is Free Talk Live. You dial toll-free here. Our number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We've got the Discord on-air call-in line rooms. They're open and available to you. Go to discord.lrn.fm. Coming up in about, looks like about 3 months from now, June 13th through the 18th, it's going to be ForkFest 2019. Great excuse to come up to New Hampshire and check out, the lay of the land here. You're going to see the beautiful White Mountains at Rogers Campground. It's an absolutely incredible view. Great place to be and spend 5 days with people that care about freedom. Those are the kinds of folks who attend ForkFest. Liberty-minded folks, voluntarists, liberty-loving anarchists, libertarians. They'll be there June 13th through the 18th. ForkFest is not like other camping festivals in that there's no organizer for ForkFest. There's no
speakers list.
Board of directors. Well, there's no official speakers list. Mark, if you wanted to put a speaker series on, you could make a list of speakers and have a microphone and a podium or something like that, and a tent and chairs if you wanted to. I don't know if you want to. Some people could, throw a musical event. I know that the guys from AnyPay.global are going to be doing a rave tent every single night this year. They've committed to that. Then also Jay Noon is going to be doing Man Camp, which will be classes that I guess he'll be offering and have different teachers for different topics.
People showing people how to weld and
to do manly things. Right?
Do all kinds of stuff.
So those are a couple of the things that have been announced so far. And again, all of this is being done on a decentralized basis. So if there's something that you think should happen, then you ought to make it happen at ForkFest 2019. Now, of course, it happens the 5 days in advance of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which is an organized festival with a ticket price and organizers and, a speakers list and all that. And that's a fine festival as well. So you can come up and go to both of them if you like. But again, ForkFest is June 13th through the 18th. Go to forkfest.party. You can learn more about the event there and connect to the unofficial Telegram chat, the unofficial ForkFest forum, because everything is unofficial with ForkFest. It's forkfest.party. We will be there, by the way, broadcasting Free Talk Live from the event.
Yeah, it'll be a great time. Forkfest.party.
That's right.
If you want to go see it. So we've had a few calls. I didn't actually expect them tonight. I guess I wasn't thinking. I don't know why I didn't think it. Somebody goes in and shoots up a couple of mosques, and you're not going to get people who are, scared of Muslims calling in. I just didn't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But
here they are.
Yeah, and I'm not here to lambaste anybody or anything like that. I understand how you feel. I understand your culture. I understand your religion. Those are the ones I'm most familiar with. But I'm going to posit a conspiracy theory. Here's my conspiracy theory. There's a group of people that have taken over control of this government and frankly have control over governments around the world. And those people want you scared of people from other countries. And what they do is they blow up the fears. They amplify the fears that you have surrounding different people and different cultures and things like that. Are there and they do this in other countries too. People who are on the mirror side of this in other countries. Now, some of them are preacher men, some of them are politicians, but they're all people with power. And as a result, we have what we have. If the Muslim world had come into Europe and taken a ruler and a compass and drawn a bunch of lines all over the place, there'd be all kinds of internal strife in Europe as a result. But the borders in Europe are a little more organic than that. Not much more, and there were problems relatively recently in Europe. But I can see why with the fall of the Ottoman Empire that was taken down by, World War I and the goals of European countries. They kind of got brought into it because of their relationship with Germany. I can see why there's this upheaval that continues to go on as the Western world continues to tell the Islamic world how it's going to live and all that stuff.
It's insulting.
Look, it's
to tell somebody how to live.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, you can live how you want in your little plot of land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You want to come over here, you got to live a certain way. And there's a solution, by the way. Everybody wants to point to Europe. Everybody wants to point to France. Everybody wants to point to Sweden and all these other
so-called no-go zones?
These no-go zones or whatever it is. Here's why this works. It's welfare. If you didn't have welfare, then Abdul wouldn't be able to bring his wife and keep her huddled up in some Section 8 housing where she doesn't get around to meet people. Once Abdullah gets out there and she starts meeting the other ladies, suddenly she's like, I like blue jeans. I like freedom. I like these things that are better. And you're not going to keep me in this house anymore, all wrapped up and tight anymore, Abdul. I'm sick of it. And then he has to listen to it until he finally gives her a little more freedom. And that's how this stuff works. If she got to go out and get a job, because she had to go out and get a job because, well, they're not getting a check. Well, then you're going to see her introduced to Western values much more quickly.
That's a good point.
I think that Europe is being torn apart by the welfare state, not by the introduction of Muslims.
Oh, absolutely. The Yellow Jackets are back out, by the way. I don't know if you saw that headline today. They're protesting again in France. For those that aren't familiar, that's something that was going on in December, I think, in January. Yep. That was pretty strong every single weekend. They were out there protesting, and apparently the protests this weekend have turned violent yet again. It's some sort of an ultimatum that they're giving, and of course they want more welfare. That's what it's about.
That's what it's always
about. They demand it. Once they start getting it, they get a taste for it. And then they believe that, it's the entitlement mentality, right? They believe that they're entitled to it. If you try to take it from them, they get real mad, and they want more.
Yeah, well, see what happens when you have a domesticated cat that you feed every day and then stop feeding it.
We go to Jacob. He's listening to WIBC FM in Indianapolis. Go ahead, Jacob.
Hi, guys. I want to thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
And I thank you for your fresh libertarian perspective.
Thank you. What were you calling about, though?
You guys are talking about the New Zealand shooting.
Yeah.
It's sad to hear about. And all I can say is hate breeds hate.
Sure does.
And something else I'd like to talk about.
Before you do that, though, I'd like to say this to the point of hate breeding hate. Somebody has to stop the cycle of violence. Somebody has to stop the cycle of hatred and turn towards forgiveness. And I understand how hard that must be in circumstances like this. But as long as this cycle continues, everybody's going to lose.
But people do that, Ian. That's collectivist thinking you're talking about there.
I'm talking about every individual. I'm talking about every individual.
Well, you
needs
said somebody,
to do those things.
And
yeah, like everybody.
8 billion people on the planet need to do this, and anytime you have a plan that includes everybody,
I understand that.
Right.
I understand that that's not going to happen, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't talk about what people ought to do.
You ought to abandon fear and the consequent hate, because hate comes from fear. You should abandon fear for your own good, not for the good of the world. But
it will manifest outward into the world.
Yes, it absolutely will, but do it for yourself.
Yes.
Because living in fear, you're never going to find a terrorist. Not one that doesn't work for the government, at least.
Yeah, they're easy to find.
Yeah, they're easy to find. You're not going to find a terrorist. And that, worrying about them, forget about it.
Yeah.
It's not worth your time.
Also, I wanted to talk about Trump's emergency declaration on the wall.
Okay.
And, the Senate trying to, kind of override or block it this week. I just wanted to hear you guys' thoughts on that and how, if this was someone else in the White House, what's stopping them from saying, oh, we have another shooting. This isn't a national emergency. Time to seize all guns. Oh, no, global warming. Time to seize all cars. What is stopping them from kind of going in that direction? Do you think the national emergency?
Well, there actually is a proposal to seize all cars, isn't there?
Yeah, the Green New Deal.
The Green New Deal. Hang on, Jacob. We can talk about it further if you want to. We can come back here with that discussion. Our toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. Well, there is that pesky Constitution that kind of gets in the way of seizing all guns in most places, at least here in the United States. That's not to say that there aren't cities like Chicago and elsewhere that have severely restricted those freedoms. We're coming up here, though. You're welcome to comment. 855-450-FREE. Join us on the radio. It's Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live. You may dial toll-free and take control of the airwaves and bring up whatever's on your mind. Our number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. By the way, thanks to John T. Suter, who is a Free Talk Live Silver Amplifier. He's somebody who gives $5 a month to Free Talk Live and the AMP program. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. And the idea is simple. You send in that $5 a month via PayPal or credit card or even Bitcoin BTC. And we will use that money to promote Free Talk Live, to get on new radio stations. We've got 194 great AM and FM radio stations across the United States and beyond, all the way out to Guam. We've got various different internet and satellite methods of people receiving and hearing this show and the ideas of peace and liberty and freedom that we talk about in cryptocurrencies pretty often here on the radio. So if you want us to do more of that, if you want us to do, because we already do 7 days a week, but if you want us to get on more radio stations, you want to help us with that, please join the AMP program like John Suter has done. You can do it for $5 a month over at amp.freetalklive.com. It's ampamp.freetalklive.com, and we certainly appreciate it, and you'll get some cool perks and some benefits for doing so. So please, amp.freetalklive.com. Makes a big difference for us. And we've been having some email troubles, by the way, over the last couple of weeks. So if you joined and you didn't get an email confirming that, feel free to reach out to me. Let me know. Everything should be fine, but you may have just missed an email if you've joined within the last couple of weeks. I apologize for any inconvenience that may have caused you. So once again, it's amp.freetalklive.com. As we go back to Jacob listening to WIBC. Jacob, you'd called about, why is it that the government doesn't, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but just to recap, why is the government not yet proposing to seize all guns in the United States or to seize cars from people because of, environmental pollution or guns for shooting people or whatever? Is that kind of what your question was?
No, I'm sorry. No. I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on Trump's emergency declaration, whether it was a good idea or bad. My personal spin, I do not think it was a great idea. I'm just kind of concerned about what one of these, communist Democrats would do if they're elected, if they would, use a national emergency to take all guns or seize all cars, seize houses, where they would draw the line or,
I
not
see what
at
you're
all.
saying.
Also, Trump's agreement or lack of agreement with China on free trade. I think they extended the deadline on the tariffs.
On the raising the tariffs again, yes.
It's just kind of interesting to me how kind of coverage of that has kind of gone away.
The Trump tariffs?
Yeah.
Well, the media is like a kid with ADHD, right? It's always looking for the new exciting story. So let me talk about the emergency declaration.
Yeah,
I have heard legal explanations of the emergency declaration, and I guess if you believe that lawyers are, I'm from the South, so we call them liars down from there. Liars are people that should be listened to. Well, okay, the White House liars made a pretty good explanation in my mind as to what is legal or whatever based on, and why we don't have to worry about the Democrats doing it in the future when they get in. Whatever. My statement would be building a wall is a bad idea. They're talking about $5 billion for building a wall, and that may very well be true. Putting up a fence isn't that expensive. But if you put up a fence, somebody's going to put a hole in it if you don't have guards on that fence all the time. Look, I'm not talking about philosophical stuff. I have real problems with walls philosophically. I'm talking about practicality. I worked at a prison for a time period, and it isn't the fence. It isn't the wall that keeps the convicts in. It's the guys on the other side with a gun that keeps the convicts in. Mm-hmm. If you gave, they've got bolt cutters in Mexico. They have angle grinders in Mexico. They have TNT in Mexico. Okay, so you put some, put up a little bit of, video surveillance equipment on this wall. Big, fat, hairy deal. Now you've doubled the price. You have to have somebody who can respond there within 10 minutes. Otherwise, these coyotes are just going to continue doing what they're doing. They'll cut a hole in the fence. They'll blow a hole in the fence. They'll do whatever they do to the fence, and they'll get everybody through in 10 minutes. And then these officers that are responding an hour later, because it's hard to get through the desert in a truck. They're not going to be able to find anybody. It's not going to change anything. A wall is a depreciating asset, and it's going to be destroyed very quickly. I think it's a bad idea, and I'm not interested in paying for it. If you're interested in paying for it, by God, let's run a GoFundMe so you can go ahead and pay for it.
So my opinion on the concept of a national emergency is it shouldn't exist. If you're going to have a government, a state, which, of course, I'm against the idea of a coercive state at all, but as long as one exists, the entire concept of emergency in the world of legal land is basically a complete loophole that you can drive a Mack truck through as far as, let's just throw the rules out. It's an emergency. Yeah, the Constitution, it means something to you, but you know what? It's an emergency, so forget about it.
And somebody's always going to call the emergency an emergency. I mean, even if the
or a non-emergency,
an
emergency.
Well, whatever.
Yeah. Something they want politically is now an emergency.
Right. When you give a politician, or as Americans tend to think of them, liars and thieves, the opportunity to say, well, here's a little blank check that you can write out whenever you feel like it. They're going to do that, people.
They sure are. And it wasn't just Trump. National emergencies have been declared.
Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus.
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln incarcerated newspapermen.
Yeah. Sick.
The press.
Not a hero. Not a good guy.
There's always something. There's always some reason to suspend the rule of law.
Sure.
There's
it's
always
necessity.
some reason.
That's the law of necessity
to
is what it's
set
called.
aside morality.
Yep.
And believe me, you do not want to give that power to politicians.
You
may like this politician. I kind of do, less so this week than I did a few weeks ago, but whatever. Whatever. I don't care. I don't want to argue about which one of these liars and thieves is a better liar and thief, because that's a boring. We'll be doing that for 2 years, starting really soon. I like my liar and thief better. Yeah. No, my liar and thief is better. It's going to be boring, people, but just get prepared. That's what talk radio does.
Yeah, we won't do a whole lot of it here, I'll tell you that, because I find that crap, like you said, I find it to be absolutely intolerable.
Right.
These idiots out there trying to tell everybody how to live their lives, and people get so obsessed over it.
And they'll use whatever trick in the book. You like Bernie Sanders and not Elizabeth Warren? You must be a misogynist.
Let's go to Jimmy listening to WGOW FM, or maybe AM, in Chattanooga.
Hey,
Jimmy,
boys, great show.
Thanks, dude. Go ahead.
I was going to comment on the New Zealand incident.
Go for it.
I wanted to mention that it looks like we've got a failed government. Our governmental model looks like it's failed now.
Which one?
But on the U.S. Republic, the government we were running our republic is pretty much failed. It looks like. But
so, would you agree then, if the government has failed, that we should abandon the concept of the United States and just go with 50 different states, let every state kind of do its own thing, like it once upon a time?
Well, no, I am not a Democrat. No,
what?
I'm not a Democrat.
What's that have to do with being a Democrat?
Well, I mean, I guess that's what they, certainly proposed.
No, definitely not. I mean,
the Democrats want the United States federal government to control your life pretty thoroughly.
Yeah,
they're not going to use your state government to go after your gun rights.
I went down to a government. Well, I mean, they would if they could, but I went down to a Democrat rally here in Keene after Trump got elected and talked to them about secession, and there was a bunch of them who were in favor of, not in favor of secession. They want to take back over the U.S. government and wield it to their benefit. So I'm asking you if you support forgetting about the United States, abolish the U.S. and let the Democrats have California. What do you care?
Yeah, well, they're pushing for a one-party government, so that's quite a change.
Okay, but that's not what I'm talking about. Did you understand what I asked you about? I asked you. You said you think it's a failure. Okay, so I agree with you. The government is a failure. It fails at everything that they try to do, and it certainly has not succeed at protecting people's rights. Right, it has not succeeded at protecting people's rights, which is the ostensible reason for the republic, right?
That's not my issue. It's just not working the way it was designed and set up to.
But doesn't that mean you should give up if if it's not working right and there might be a better way of doing things, which is to say to decentralize the government and have more choices?
I'm not for a hard reset. I mean, it looks looks like they're.
What kind of Southerner are you?
In the media.
Aren't you from Tennessee?
No, I'm from Boston, Tennessee.
Oh, Boston?
In between
okay, that explains it.
You know, that's ridiculous.
That does explain it.
Ridiculous.
I was going to ask you about the New Zealand mosque shooting.
Stand by. We'll let you get to that. Coming up here, Jimmy. Jimmy from Boston, now in Tennessee. Yankee.
Look, I don't know why you go that way. Look, I mean,
trying to keep the union together.
Well,
more coming up here in moments.
The government has failed. He's
with
right about
Jimmy,
that.
the unionist. It's Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. You can dial in toll free, bring up whatever you want here as we launch into the third hour of this live Saturday edition of the show. You can dial in at 855-450 free. Bring up whatever you want, although the discussion tonight has mostly focused around issues surrounding the New Zealand mass shootings that happened early yesterday. Just absolutely horrifying. What happened. 50 people now apparently are dead as a result of this psychopath who armed up with, I think, 5 guns or something like that he legally owned down there. And according to another article, he was from Australia, so Gene was correct about that earlier, but had the guns in New Zealand, so I guess they have some sort of reciprocity or whatever. That would be my best guess.
Or you can go there and own a gun. There, a semi-automatic rifle there is the easiest thing to own, and it's
for now
a good thing to for now was the easiest thing to own. It's basically impossible to own a handgun. I mean, a semi-automatic rifle can be used for hunting. If you don't have a semi-automatic, that means let's explain what a semi-automatic rifle is for people.
Yeah, maybe some people don't know.
A semi-automatic rifle means one bullet, one trigger pull.
Mm-hmm.
So you pull the trigger, bang, 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 bang. You pull trigger pull, trigger pull,
as fast as you can pull the trigger, it will shoot.
Right. And
so it's not automatic where you hold the trigger down and it just continues to shoot.
Right. You can have bolt action rifles, which may have extra bullets in them, more than one bullet in them, but you have to pull this bolt back and forth in order to advance the bullet. You can have single load rifles like a muzzle loader or something like that, and there's probably some out there. I can think of sort of double-barreled shotguns are kind of like single loads, except they're double loads.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want people to understand what they are. People often get scared of this word automatic, as though you pull a trigger and a whole bunch of bullets fly out, and all the bullets have homing beacons on them, and every one of them hits a target.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Well,
that doesn't exist.
It would solve some problems. Yeah. At some point, that will be taken care of. It won't be like Who Framed Roger Rabbit anymore.
Let's go to your calls and thoughts here. You can bring up whatever you want. We had Jimmy on the line listening in Chattanooga to WGOW. Jimmy, you had some sort of question or issue you wanted to bring up. Go ahead.
Great show. Great boys. I listened to your. I was going to bring up the topic of the latest New Zealand mass shooting, and yes. I was thinking, over the last, 50 years, I guess we could all agree that there's been hundreds of shootings in mosques and churches and nightclubs and so forth, where there's been sometimes, this number, 50 or so killed.
This is pretty rare. I mean, this is a pretty unusual number. Certainly for New Zealand, this is the most or the worst mass shooting they've ever had. And as far as in the United States, there have been a bunch of them, but they're not all in mosques or nightclubs or anything like that. I mean, you could probably count them on one hand.
Africa, Iraq, France, all over the world, Pakistan, blow up, detonate and blow up, and it's all. This is the first one that is a blowback against Islam. All the rest of them have been Islamic against whoever.
Oh no, that's not true at all. Not true. Not true at all, sir. Thank you for the call tonight. I appreciate it. That's not true.
Yeah, there was the guy up in, I think it was Minnesota, that attacked the Sikhs, thinking they were Muslim. There's been all kinds of attacks.
There was a black church that was attacked, remember,
this
in the
is
South?
blowback against Muslims, he said, particularly. So
I'm talking about the different types of shootings. He went down this list of different types of mass killings, and I'm pointing out that it's not just Muslims being attacked, it's not just Muslims attacking, it's all kinds of lunatics who are pulling triggers on different people, different groups of people that they're blaming. There's, of course, young people in schools who've been attacked on a myriad of occasions here in the United States, and we've seen a multitude of a couple of different that I can think of, church-related attacks here on different religions. So I would not say it was just the Muslims attacking people. In fact, that seems to be the least of it in the United States, at least. Now, I can't speak to other countries and how often these things happen there. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, there's plenty of Muslim attacks in Muslim countries, for instance.
In many cases, against other Muslims.
Americans don't seem to worry about that one.
Yeah. Let's continue with your calls and thoughts. Let's go to Bob, listening in Indianapolis to WIBC-FM. Hey, Bob.
Hey, guys. How you doing tonight?
Welcome, sir. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Excellent. Hey, I just wanted to maybe clarify things a little bit about the president's declaration of an emergency and the authority he used.
Okay.
The law, as much as I may or may not disagree with it, the law does authorize him to make those emergency declarations.
Yep, it does.
And I think what most of the, I guess probably most people that are mad about it, are that I don't know if it's that same law or other authorities allow him to reprogram money by making that emergency declaration.
What does reprogram money mean?
That means he's taking money from the defense budget and using it to build the wall.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah, so I believe he's using military equipment to do the wall building and that sort of thing. So, if it's an exercise, I thought that the explanation was pretty legit sounding, but then don't worry, when the Democrats get in power, they're going to have expensive lawyers that are going to make their stuff make sense.
And I get that argument, but the law as it's currently written, and not just the emergency declaration law, but other laws, I don't think there's a parallel where President Warren can declare climate change to be a national emergency. There's no law authorizing her to move any money to do that. Whereas there is specifically laws authorizing the president to move money.
She can call global climate change a natural disaster and treat it as such.
And where's she going to get the money from? That's where the question comes from.
Well,
there is no law authorizing her to get that money, whereas there is specific laws authorizing the president to use the defense budget for what he's doing.
Well, by the way, there's an update on this story coming out yesterday. Fortune magazine reporting that Trump has vetoed the congressional resolution to cancel his border emergency, and apparently,
I mean, was there any doubt he was going to do that?
Apparently, it's his first veto. To me, the most relevant part of this story is that he's been in office for how long now? 2, 3 years?
2 plus years, yeah.
Not a single veto until Friday? Really?
Well, hasn't had to, I guess. But
shocking.
Yeah, I know.
He's draining the swamp, buddy.
I don't think.
How do you drain the swamp without vetoing the garbage coming out of it?
Good question. I mean, great question.
Yeah. Bob, thanks for your call tonight, man. I appreciate hearing from you, dude.
Have a good night.
Yes, sir. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Let's continue. Jim, listening in South Carolina, in Columbia to WQXL FM. Hello, Jim.
Hey, thanks. I love the program.
Welcome.
Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
commenting on what you just said, the reason Trump has never had to use a veto is because Republicans had House majority during the first 2 years. And yeah, I wish they would have got a lot more done. But now we have Democrats having House majority in Congress. So I think that's why he had to use the veto for the first time.
House
but I do
and Senate,
think
yeah.
that emphasizes, he used it for a very important issue.
Which is to say to
I don't have a problem with the veto. I have a problem with the lack of vetoes. But like I said, I'm fond of this particular president. I realize that none of them are going to rise to my standards. I realize that none of them are going to rise halfway to my standards. This guy,
hey, man, I'm a libertarian too, man. So I totally get it, and I understand. Like, no one can rise to your standards though if you're a libertarian, because
pretty much not.
We are all for limited government, and what we have now is just this corrupt, overreaching government that I wish we could go back to 1776.
Do you though? Because it didn't work. What would you change?
Well, 1776 was the Revolution. 1789 was the Constitution.
I want to go way back towards more limited government rather than this.
But they tried that.
Well, to be clear, the Constitution, as it was written, this is the government you get from it.
They tried to limit
we
it
know
with
that
the chains of the Constitution.
We've run a 200-plus year experiment, and we know what the Constitution brings.
What would you change? That's what I want to know, Jim. Hang on. If you want to continue the discussion, I want to know from you, if you could go back and you could change things to make it more limited somehow, what would you do? Because their experiment created one of the largest governments known to man. 855-450-FREE. You can join us here on Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live. We invite you to join us right here if you want. You can take control of the airwaves. You can bring up anything that you want. Our number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. Also, our Discord on-air call-in line rooms are open and available to you over at discord.lrn.fm. Just jump into one of those top 4 rooms on our various chat rooms list, and we will notice you in there and join you, and then you'll sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us. It's Ian.
And Mark.
And I do want to let you know about our video clips that are now available online on clips.freetalklive.com. You want to share some Free Talk Live? Maybe there was a moment in the recent episodes that you really enjoyed. There's a good chance one of those moments that you enjoyed made it into a video clip. And you can then take that clip and share it on your favorite social media so your friends and family and whoever else happens to monitor you can know what you are into, what you've been enjoying with Free Talk Live. So it makes it easy to share moments that you like from this show. And you can go to clips.freetalklive.com. You can subscribe to the Liberty Bits channel there. That's where the clips appear. You can also follow us on social media on Twitter at twitter.freetalklive.com. We're on Mastodon, which is the decentralized, better alternative to Twitter, in my opinion, over at toot.freetalklive.com, and also telegram.freetalklive.com. If you're on Telegram, you can follow us in any one of those ways, and you will see the updates from the YouTube channel pop right into those social media as the videos get uploaded. So it's a great way to find out when there's a fresh clip up there for you to see at clips.freetalklive.com. As we continue, we go back to Jim listening in South Carolina to WQXL. Jim, you were trying to drive at something, and I don't remember what it was. So can you bring that back to us?
Sure, man. I was really wanting to talk about the national emergency and the New Zealand thing, but since we were talking about that, I was saying that, America used to have no income tax in the United States.
Before 1913,
1913, that's when the federal income tax was enacted.
And the Federal Reserve at the same time.
The Federal Reserve was created, right?
Yes.
Right. It's almost as if they're related.
By Woodrow Wilson.
Bad year.
Yeah, so, I think that's when the ship really started sinking. Because once they started doing that, then it just escalated.
Yeah, well, no doubt. That was a turning point, but you could also argue that it was a pretty big turning point when Abraham Lincoln used violence to keep the Union together.
Abraham Lincoln, he definitely abused his executive power. I've heard a lot of stories about that lately.
Guess what? That's what happens when you have power. It gets abused.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I remember now what I was asking you. So you were talking about limited government, and I just didn't make a note. You were talking about limited government, the sort of theoretical thing that could exist, and I gave the United States as an example of a attempt at a limited government, and I asked you, what would you change if you could, tweak things? You can go back in time, and you could have some sort of, influence on the way things worked out. What would you change to try to make things limited? Because obviously the limitations did not hold.
Right. So I am very torn between being an anarcho-capitalist and a minarchist. There's a lot more to learn in my mind. I'm still kind of young, but thinking about it, I think the Founding Fathers were very wise to set us up as a constitutional republic rather than a pure democracy.
The idea being with a republic, you are protecting rights. Isn't that the idea?
Well, the angry mob, if you have a majority of, let's say most people, do you think most people are smart or dumb? I would say most people aren't very wise. They're ignorant. They don't really care.
I'd say they're ignorant. I wouldn't say that has anything to do with their intelligence, though. That's just ignorance. It's pretty common.
Right. Well, either whether or not they're ignorant or just uninformed or whatever,
that's what
I think that they probably don't know how to vote best for everyone.
Okay.
They might make the wrong decision. So if you have an angry mob that's ruling everything, a Democratic majority, you don't want them ruling everyone's lives.
I agree with you. There's no doubt about that. I mean, democracy, the old saying that I love is it's two wolves and a sheep deciding on dinner. Okay, so it's pretty clear that democracy is a failed system as far as any kind of protection of rights, but the people in this republic are democratically elected. So, I mean, what's really the difference there?
Yeah, it's a democratic republic, which constitutional republic, they're kind of synonyms.
But what I'm trying to say is I'm not real clear on I've been on this show.
Is we're waiting for a judge, a government bureaucrat, to determine whether or not your rights have been violated as enumerated by whatever the finger in the wind is at that given time. That's what it means.
Well, that's crap.
Right, of course it's crap.
Yeah.
So I got one for you, Ian.
Okay, as far as changes you can make to
so changes to the Constitution that'll change things. First off, the politicians have to in Washington D.C. can only pass one item per bill. Okay. You can't cobble a whole bunch of things together. It all has to be one at a time. Secondly, they have to read everything that they pass out loud inside the House. That way they can't pass thousands and thousands and thousands of paragraphs.
You got to give Downsize DC credit because they came up with those.
Right.
Those are good ones.
Next, people know what's going on, right?
Right. Well, the people will still be just as clueless. Don't worry.
Right. But it'll at least take them time to do that, and they won't want to do that. Right?
Number 3, and I love this one.
They have bills now where they don't even read it, like thousands of pages, and they don't even read it till after they pass it.
They don't even read it then either. I'm telling you, they don't.
Oh my God!
And my last one will destroy political parties. Are you ready?
Oh, okay.
This one's awesome.
I like this one. I don't even know what it is.
100% of representatives and 100% of senators must vote to pass a bill into law.
100%.
If it's any good. Like, everybody can agree murder's bad,
wow,
right?
All right. I'm on board
Everybody
with that
can agree arson is bad. Once you get that, so if you can get 100% of the liars and thieves to say that something is good or bad, then you've just destroyed all the political parties. There won't be none of this back and forth or anything like that.
About 99%.
Why in the world? You're presuming that you elected 1% of your representatives are stupid?
I'm just throwing a curveball.
I'm only 99% not acceptable. 100%.
Would you also need 100% to repeal something as well?
No, 50% to repeal.
So we can all agree that government is completely incompetent.
Yes, we can agree on that.
Then here's what I'm amazed.
Those are good suggestions, Mark. I'm going to give you credit. Those are pretty good.
By the way, I'm only
one of them was originally yours.
That government is incompetent, that is forced on people, that that causes perverse incentives. Mm-hmm. I think we're all governed by all kinds of agreements. I have a marriage contract with my wife. It's a governing document. We have an agreement.
But you both agreed on that.
That's true. Consent is what's important.
Right. I'm talking about voluntary government, and we have a lot of it in our lives, and it's rarely complained about, except for cell phone contracts. Everybody hates those.
That's not real contracts anyway. Jim, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. Thanks for the discussion. Our toll-free number, if you want to join us here, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Let's go to Robert in Indianapolis, listening to WIBC FM. Hello, Robert.
Hey, thank you.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Hey, I just want to bring up something real quick about, it doesn't have to be a mass shooting, but anytime somebody's raped, killed, or murdered, well, number one reason is they don't have a way to defend themselves. They're totally defenseless normally. When are people going to wake up and at least carry some bear spray or a taser or a knife? Have something to protect yourself with. If you're afraid of guns, carry something. Everybody just sit and walks around totally helpless and defenseless, and they wonder, how did I get raped, murdered, and robbed?
And the cops aren't going to get there in time to help you. More coming up here. Free Talk Live.
We'd like to invite you to visit freekeen.com. Freekeen.com features audio, video, and blogs chronicling the transition to a voluntary society. Freekeen.com also has comments and discussion forums so you can be heard. Freekeen.com.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live. It's a live Saturday show, and it's always open to you if you want to join us on the radio. Our number here is 855-450-FREE. Like freedom, that's 855-450-3733, as the politicians in New Zealand are talking about a total ban on, I guess, ownership of semi-automatic rifles. Ian and Mark here in the studio tonight. And don't forget, you can join us on our Discord server. Go to discord.lrn.fm. Oh, and if you missed it last night, the live event of She-Male versus Nazi.
Oh, God.
It was something else. Christopher Cantwell, the crying Nazi, as you may know him.
He's the guy from Charlottesville, yeah.
The guy, the biggest sort of face of the Charlottesville Nazi situation.
He didn't kill anybody, though.
Down there. Thankfully, he did not. But he was on the air on our Twitch feed last night and also on LRN.FM. We did a simulcast on LRN, which is, audio. And that was because we were sure that this was going to get taken down. We figured Twitch has very restrictive rules about no racism, allowed on Twitch, and Cantwell's a racist. So the idea was She-Male, Aria DiMezzo, the anarchist She-Male, was going to take on Christopher Cantwell.
Our own cross-dresser.
Yep. We love her. And so it was kind of like her show, because Cantwell had Aria on his show, his kind of racist podcast that he does. And so it was only fair that she have him on one of the shows that she did. But normally she's the host of Call to Freedom, which is a radio-based show, and you can't have somebody like Chris Cantwell come on and express his awful, despicable, racist opinions on broadcast radio in the way that he would express them. So the idea was, let's go internet only. Let's do this special event. And Cantwell came in here acting like he was ready to go all night if he had to. He was willing to go past midnight. It was starting at 10 o'clock at night Eastern time. And he didn't even make it through the first hour.
Somebody called him a naughty word.
Somebody called in. Turd Ferguson actually called in and said something.
Somebody called a naughty word.
Yeah.
Called him a naughty word.
Called him something that we can't say on the radio. Something Cantwell certainly has heard before. So, he blew up. He flipped out. I can't play it on the radio for you because I haven't edited the beeps out. I haven't beeped it out yet because it is somewhat profane. But he just couldn't handle it. He totally got triggered. He said, if you don't hang up on that person, I'm paraphrasing. If you don't hang up on Turd Ferguson, I'm going to leave. I'm gonna get up and leave. And Aria was like, well, get up and leave then, because we let you talk. You've been yammering here for 40 minutes or whatever, for a bulk of the show up until that point. And so he left. He stormed out of the studio, and there's a video right now. If you want to check it out, you can see it over at freetalklive.com. It's the top article there. It's also the top story at freekeen.com. It's on the Free Keen YouTube channel, so feel free to check that out. I don't know if Aria is going to repost the actual debate. I suspect she will. It's currently available on Aria DiMezzo's Twitch channel. That's where you can see the archived of the full hour-long or 45-minute-long debate until he got up and stormed out. So check out the storm out clip over at freekeen.com as we continue here. Your calls and thoughts. Welcome. We go to Bobby is calling from Florida. He's on our Discord call-in lines. Go ahead, Bobby.
What's up, guys? Twitch was popping. Last night's show was great.
Thanks.
If anybody out there hasn't watched Twitch, guys, you got to get on this Twitch. And then when
Twitch, for our listeners that don't know, there's probably a lot of people in Radio Land who aren't under the age of 28 or whatever, who aren't really aware of Twitch. Twitch is a video streaming platform that launched in 2011. It ended up being purchased by Amazon, and it's kind of the big competitor to YouTube as far as live streams go. YouTube still owns the market as far as like archival video that you upload and can call up at any time. Twitch doesn't do a whole lot of archiving of the streams. They usually only hold on to like 2 weeks worth. So if you were to go on the Free Talk Live Twitch channel or the LRN Twitch channel at twitch.lrn.fm, you'll find the last couple weeks worth of Free Talk Live in archival format. But if you want to go beyond that, you got to go to our YouTube channel. But Twitch is a great live streaming platform, and that's where we stream our HD quality video version of the show when we're live on the air every single night. So we are there right now at twitch.lrn.fm, and we've been doing kind of like a Twitch user drive, basically. We're trying to hit the Twitch partner level or rank, if you will, for our channel. And in order to do that, we've got to hit 75 concurrent viewers purportedly for an entire month. Here's the crazy thing that happened last night. Aria DeMezzo's channel, which is not a big channel at all. It's a newer channel. She figured she was going to lose the channel over having Chris Cantwell on. Like, we were to complete. That's the reason why we didn't have it on LRN's channel, because we figured Twitch was going to pull the feed and ban the channel because it had Chris Cantwell on it. Even though he was being debated against, we figured just the fact that he was there was going to be enough. Turns out they didn't pull the channel. It actually got her up to rank number 2 in the talk shows category during the show. She hit over 90 concurrent viewers, and by the next morning, they'd sent her a notice saying she was a Twitch partner. So
don't you feel bad that you didn't run this on your channel?
We really thought they were going to pull it, but regardless, kudos to her, man. She deserved it. She was the one who came up with the idea, so she deserves the partner for that. But if you want to help us jump up to that level, then there's instructions on the front page over at freetalklive.com on how you can basically pull up the Twitch channel at twitch.lrn.fm on your home or your work computer and just kind of leave it open at all times. Then we're always there. You can always watch us if we're live.
Just hold a big event like Aria did here, and you'll get viewers.
What would you suggest?
No, I don't know. I have to think of something.
All right. Hey, Bobby, go ahead with your thoughts. What were you calling about?
Yeah. So I got to see the video of the guy he got when he got
the shooter
arrested.
The shooter.
Yeah. I posted it in the online here.
Thanks for bringing that up. You were the one that posted that on our Discord or in the chat. Look, so we watched that during one of the breaks earlier tonight, and what was really interesting was it was only 2 cops.
Yeah. Yeah, they pinned him, and I think they kind of...
they ran his car off the road, basically. Yeah. Pinned it up against some sort of concrete barrier, maybe, or something like that. He wasn't going anywhere. The wheels were spinning, and they arrested him.
And these cops, how they worked really well. I mean, better than I would say the American cops in situations. They kind of stunned him, and not literally yet, but they stunned him. They hit him off the road, and then they got the one cop ran to the one side. And the guy's window was already, shot open.
Yeah, he had shot his own windows open after. If you watch the original horrifying footage of him murdering these innocent people, when he gets back in his car and drives away, because again, the cops didn't show up before he was able to get away, and he was shooting people for minutes straight. He's driving away. He blasts out his own windows and just seems to be shooting at people randomly in the streets. I'm not sure if he was targeting Muslims who happen to be in the neighborhood or if he's just shooting at random people.
He must have been deaf. He shot out his own windows in a car?
Yeah, multiple times shooting from within the car as he was driving.
And then the one cop, he went really quick and he grabbed him right out of the window. Another cop got him with the taser as he was grabbing him out of the window. And then they got him and they put him to the curb and they just kept hitting him with the taser. And then they got him handcuffed. It was amazing.
I can't imagine that guy would have survived if it was the United States. I feel like that, the cops outside of the U.S., a lot of them are just better trained at taking people without, using as much violence as was. No more violence than is necessary, I guess. And the fact that they were able to do that was amazing.
and I hope they lock him into solitary confinement for the rest of his life, and that'll be his hell. I don't think there is a hell. Maybe there is, but if there isn't, I really hope he has to sit in solitary confinement for the next 40 or 50 years.
Bobby, thanks for your call tonight, man. I appreciate your thoughts and the recap there. I'm glad you brought up the video of the arrest, because I didn't even think to talk about it on the air, and it was worth pointing out. I think don't you think they handled that differently than the U.S. cops would have?
There were two cops that took him down. I mean, I imagine he would have just gone out in a hail of bullets in the U.S., which there's some advantages to, right? You're not housing this guy for the rest of his life in some cushy New Zealand prison, is my guess.
Toll-free number tonight is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We'll continue.
If you've been incarcerated in the United States, of course, you have to pay for the expensive death row. You have to pay for the expensive trial.
It'll be expensive in New Zealand, too, I imagine, whatever it is.
Yes, but the trials going over and over again because of the death penalty, that only happens in the U.S. Millions
Do they not have
dollars.
the death penalty in New Zealand?
They don't have the death penalty in any sort of Western nation.
Really? Except for the United States?
That's my belief, yeah.
I wonder if New Hampshire's going to get rid of it. I heard the House passed it.
With a veto-proof majority.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about the Senate, though.
Yeah.
We got more coming up here. Time for you if you want to jump in. Get on the lines now. 855-450-FREE like freedom. It's Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. You can dial toll-free and bring up anything that you want. Our number in these remaining moments, we got time for you. If you dial now, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Ian and Mark in the studio tonight. And don't forget, you can, again, go to freetalklive.com, grab all kinds of free stuff there, like archives that go back for years, all the way back to 2006, downloadable easily from freetalklive.com. You don't have to pay for it, but you can if you want. I mean, we've got the AMP program where you can donate to what we do here. But by default, everything's free on the site. So please go and enjoy. It's freetalklive.com. We go back to the phones, to your calls and thoughts. He's Vernon in New Orleans. You're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, I wanted to thank you all, one, for encouraging me not to watch the video and watching it on my behalf last night, but then also posting it to your Discord. I wouldn't have been able to find the video without that link, so I really appreciate that. I just wanted to make the comment.
We also posted it to our social media, so I posted it on Twitter at twitter.freetalklive.com, the Mastodon at toot.freetalklive.com, and telegram.freetalklive.com. So I did send the link out there as well. So in that way, if somebody wants to go and see it, it's going to be a lot easier to find on our social media. If you were to go to the chat room, you'd have to scroll back to last night and then search. And
I just thought it was funny how you said, "Oh, we watched it for you," but then I'm going to post a link to every single social media.
Yeah, well, I want people to have the ability to see this if they want to. I don't recommend it, but I support freedom of speech and freedom of the media. And to me, that's an important thing to do. When we did this during the ISIS killing videos, which thankfully seem to have stopped over the last few years, or at least they're not making the news if they're continuing to make them, where we actually would play some of them, their propaganda on the air, and then when the absolutely horrible, violent videos came out, I tried to get some level of understanding of what I wouldn't watch most of them because they were pretty gross, but just to get a taste of what it was like, so I could at least know what I was talking about on the air. And we posted links to those too because they were hard to find.
I'm not going to take the whole segment. I just had a quick comment. I just wanted to say that it looked like I almost thought I was watching a first person shooter.
That's what I said.
It was crazy. I mean, I cannot believe. And then the music the guy was listening to, like that polka music. I mean, and then
was there music? We didn't actually listen to it
while he was cruising around town. Yeah, he was listening to
polka?
Some crazy music, like some 60s hippie.
Huh.
I don't know.
The first 5 minutes of this video are him driving.
When I think of polka music, I don't think of 60s and hippies.
No. It's a variety of music. He actually, in the video, he probably have about 10 to 12 minutes of him just driving around making comments. And so my very last comment was, I think he only broadcast live one of the two mosque shootings. I think the second one that he was driving to, he cut the stream off. But
if he wanted to make an escape, you don't want to broadcast your whereabouts.
I don't think he wanted to escape. Didn't he want to get caught so he could then continue to preach from prison? Whatever paranoid claptrap.
I didn't see that part of it, but I didn't read the whole.
I didn't read the whole thing either.
I'm hanging up, but please be careful if you watch that video. I think I lost sleep last night, and I should have never watched it. Thank you.
It's disturbing. I thank you for the call tonight. I mean, it's sick from top to bottom, and it just keeps getting worse. It's bad enough to watch somebody just going and slaughtering people wholesale, innocent people, but then to go back in and to just continue putting bullets into their bodies after the fact, just to presumably to ensure that they were dead, including at least one visible child, 10 years old or younger, pretty crystal clear in what was thankfully it was not an HD quality video, because it would have been even more horrifying in higher resolution.
It's certainly terrible. I mean, I suppose if you want to take a look for the silver lining, maybe he was putting them out of their misery. I don't know.
What? Oh, you mean the dying people? Okay.
Yes.
No, that's not his. That was not his intention, I suspect. Let's continue here with your calls and thoughts. I think what his intention was to get anybody who was playing dead. And
that certainly happened.
Let's go back to the phones to Matthew in Louisiana. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Matthew.
Hey there. So y'all were talking about if you could go back and talk to the founders to make sure that this actually stayed to be a small, limited government. And it reminded me of something from Robert Heinlein's book, Starship Troopers. The way to limit the size of the government and the scope of it is to limit who gets the sovereign franchise.
The vote.
Because, precisely. If you recall de Tocqueville's caution, he said that the United States will be destroyed when the people of the country realize that they can use the vote to get goodies from the government.
So in Heinlein, in Starship Troopers, I always say that wrong. Yeah. They only let people who had military service vote, and it's
not always military service. It was federal service. It was a period of 2 to 4 years of extremely unpleasant work that the government needed done. It could be mining on Titan was one of the things he described it as, or being used as a test animal. But it was stuff that basically, people would not volunteer to do.
Otherwise, which further inflates the value of a vote. I mean, a vote is a statistically insignificant act, and the idea that you would risk death and give 2 years of your life away for it is absolutely crazy. If in Heinlein's fictional world, I would be one of these people to be not only not having a vote, but actively attempting to get other people to not have a vote. Sounds nuts. But
so you'd be like the
parents,
the main character's fathers.
Yes, yeah,
try to talk him out of it.
Right.
That's okay. I mean, that was the idea.
But I don't think that's going to limit the size of government. I don't think Heinlein's idea is that great. And here's the reason. Once the ex-soldiers realize that they can get free goodies from the government by voting for them, they will. They'll just create an entitled class of veterans benefits or whatever, and there you have the same problem all over again.
Well, his reasoning, and it may be defective, but his reasoning was, having done this hard thing, this difficult thing for the preservation of the Federation, that they would be loath to do anything stupid and throw it away. Now, like I said, it could be defective.
They're going to do it to benefit themselves, just like the politicians do. I mean, the reason that the people argue against term limits, not that I'm making this argument, is that they don't want the politicians limited because they have to live with the consequences of their actions as time goes by. That somehow that's a benefit to having somebody who's been in the House for 40 years. I don't know exactly what it is. I like mine better. 100% of politicians need to agree that a law should be the law of the land, rather than this arguing back and forth and two-party crap. If you can
got my vote.
536 drunken sailors to agree on it.
Should we do the same thing in New Hampshire?
I'm for it. I'm for it on a state level and a local level too.
You should run for office.
Now that I think you should. Mark.
But it's going to require a constitutional amendment.
Just on that one platform.
It's a constitutional amendment. So, I'll get torn apart. I'm a convicted felon. They're going to tear me apart. I'll never get elected. I can't get elected to dog catcher.
Thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. You'd be surprised, Mark. I mean, you're talking about going up against politicians that are generally an untrustworthy scumbag bunch. I think you've got a lot to bring to the table in that kind of a race.
Why would I spend my time and energy going into a government to try to fix it for people who, for 200-something years, have always just sat around and, it's fine. No, I'm not going to waste I got a short life. I'm not going to give it to those folks.
All right. We got Sarah on the line in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead. Sarah, New Mexico. Sarah going once. Sarah going twice. That's unusual.
Speaking of not wanting to give my short life to the government, the reason that politicians do it, these people aren't philanthropic. They're doing it for the money.
Right. They're trying to enrich their friends and punish their enemies and enrich themselves as well.
Yeah,
they're successful.
The power is addictive. There's no doubt. Everybody wants to have the special license plate and the bodyguards and all those things.
I agree. You shouldn't have any power.
Yeah.
I know
I should not have power. Well. Yeah. You. It's true. I like the trappings. I would love the trappings of power. There's no doubt. But, if the only goal was to vote no on everything and just attempt to get a constitutional amendment in that made it so that it had to be 100% of politicians had to vote on something, I'd be all for that.
By the way, the full Shemale versus Nazi event video is available on YouTube. Aria has put it up on her Aria DiMezzo YouTube channel. I will have a link. I've just put just put the link on our Twitter and Mastodon and Telegram, so it's there for you. I'm going to update the free keen.
If you want to go, it's twitter.freetalklive.com. You can subscribe there, and you can see our tweets.
Yep, and I'm also going to update the Free Keen article that I wrote to include a link to that as well. Plus, the Freer Talk Live episode we did afterwards is kind of like a post-show, kind of a wrap-up episode of that. It's all going to be in the freekeen.com post that you will find at the top of that site right now. We'll see you tomorrow night. Join us online in the meantime at freetalklive.com.
All right, it's another edition of the Edgington Post Show. Mark Edge coming to you from the North American Bitcoin Conference, and it's a pretty big event here for the middle of crypto winter. Winter generally and crypto winter specifically, right? And I've got with me, can you say your name for me? Because I don't want to get it wrong. Vesa?
Yeah, it's Vesa.
Vesa.
Yeah.
And you're a performance artist, am I right there? Or just like what kind of medium do you use?
Well, I do all sorts of stuff, but basically it's mixed media. The core of it is storytelling. I used to be a filmmaker. I had my own production company, and ever since a kid, I just started creating with things, and I'm drawn to usually the kinds of projects or phenomena that is happening in global culture where there's a boiling point. It's something that maybe in 2013, I body painted a Bollywood superstar and the project changed the world and went to about 300 million people because it was essentially she was Pakistani and Muslim. So for her to do these 6 body painting art pieces with me that commented upon the common origin of all spirituality all over the world, that was the hotspot of when the women's empowerment movement was coming up. And basically now we see what the results are in good and in bad ways. Sure. But I was a part of that. But a couple of years ago, because I had a history of understanding the monetary system.
Well, wait. I want to hear about this Bollywood thing first before we go any further.
Okay.
So, I mean, in Bollywood, they don't even kiss on screen, at least that's what I heard at some point ago. Yeah. So, I mean, to have so she was painted, her body was painted. When you say her body, was it like all of her body was exposed?
All of her body. She was nude and got painted, and then we essentially told her life story, how that correlated with my story, and what was the bigger story going on in culture all over the world. And
so do you have a fatwa issued against you?
I don't. I mean, it was a risk. It was like we could have been killed for that project, but basically because all of the communication was about what was similar with Pakistan and Finland, what was similar with all the different faiths, what was going on in culture. It was much bigger than Islam. It was much wider of a cultural project for the whole of the world to try and find some common ground, because at that point in 2013 everything was already polarizing very, very fast, and I wanted to dedicate some time with that project in particular to take something that was a hot spot. So obviously that became interesting to people, but the communication was all about love and what's similar with us and how can we coexist on this planet.
How can people find this? What do they search on the internet to see this art?
Oh, sure. It's just artevo.org. So that's ARTEVO.org.
Artevo.org. ArtforCrypto.org.
Yeah, and this project specifically is called the Veena Malik Project, and it's you'll find it on that thing.
What's it called?
The Veena Malik Project. That was her
Veena
name.
Malik.
Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of things do draw together the spirituality of the world? Tell me what they are.
There's a common sort of value system about it all, but let's say the main piece, it actually in symbolism has the patriarchal and the matriarchal symbolist representations of various different kinds of faiths and different kinds of perspectives on the world. Like, for example, let's say the matriarchal tradition, which is more on the forgotten side of things, that usually tends to see the world as in celebrates sexuality and fertility, and it's you could say that a soul has to have had done a lot of work in order to deserve a place here. So that would be called a descending religion. So basically, earth is heaven in a certain kind of way.
Okay, gotcha.
And the patriarchal ones are maybe more ascending. So they see the world as a halfway house or even a kind of hell that you have to ascend from, as opposed to you need to pick yourself up by your bootstraps, and it's more the masculine mission type of way.
Interesting.
And the whole one of the art pieces alone was to try and find a balance in between the two, so that the two can communicate more, because right now we hear all of this toxic masculinity and all this kind of stuff, and it just gets weirder and weirder. There's only femininity and masculinity, and those need to be able to coexist and be in harmony together. So they
exist in the workplace, they exist in the home, they exist together even in an individual at the same time, and there's no reason that they can't exist together on the media. It seems to be that media loves a controversy.
Sure.
And therefore they'll take it where they can get it, and if it's somebody's got mommy problems or somebody's got daddy problems, they're happy to listen and create as much division as they possibly can.
Yeah, it seems to be it's very alarming all over the place where we're headed with this kind of attitude that what we have. And well, I for one, I'm trying to imagine, like, let's say the Renaissance artists, some of the best ones, what they dared to do was to imagine what tomorrow could look like. And that's a tradition that is mostly lost in art. And a part of what I'm doing here with the Art4Crypto platform
tell me about that.
Is to basically say, well, here's the separation of money and state. This is going on. This is the big picture of this whole story. So to make art for us who are on the inside of this whole space that is kind of special and effectively tell those stories, but of course also help mass adoption to tell people about Bitcoin and crypto who might have only heard about it in passing, to try and condense these massive concepts into singular images and then help communicate what they're about. So that's the thing.
How did you get on to doing this art project?
Well, the long and the short of it is, I suppose, is that I just got to understand what the fiat monetary system of how it worked about a decade ago, and I was already innovating with it, and I made a documentary film about it and things like that. But that only ever allowed me to kind of criticize it. Once I got the significance of crypto, how many different solutions it was offering and where we're headed with it, it was a no-brainer. I was absolutely all in 2 years ago immediately, and went down the rabbit hole, 4 months, didn't sleep, internal head hard drive, 1,000 RPM, like from the moment that my eyes came online, if I went to sleep at all. And then just realized that here's a great opportunity. I can be at service at this, and I can start imagining what it could be like. Like, one of the pieces was a Litecoin piece that was a Litecoin credit card. And at that point, there was there were no credit cards for crypto. Of course, now we have it, but in the simplest of ways, I was able to show people that this is where we're going. This is what we could have soon. And
now, how long was it for you between sort of this is this is a harebrained scheme or this is a scam or whatever? I mean, people start in all kinds of different places for crypto. How long was it for you to sort of get the realization of it?
Well, I first heard about it from what I consider to be quite dodgy sources already, to my detriment.
Sure.
Quite early, and then just forgot about it for a long time. And then a couple of years ago, I just went for a coffee with a friend of mine, and someone who I admire and respect a lot, and he just sort of told me that he'd become an investor some time ago already in the space, and he just paid himself for a full year, and he updated me where crypto was and why I should maybe pay attention. So it really happened over a coffee that I realized the importance, and then just went down feverish research.
Can you tell me about some of these pieces you've been working on, these crypto pieces?
Yeah, like for example, just the long, because you asked me in the beginning what it is that I do in this space. So basically, I make these art pieces, but I also do performances and I do keynotes and I write for News BTC and all these different kinds of things. And for example, one of the pieces that I was handing here over, one of the founders of the World CryptoCon conference to Eric Spire, was essentially that whole piece told the story of what's going on with crypto in Vegas, what's the relevance of the past, present, and future, and what happened through that crypto conference. So I helped brand that conference to become an iconic art piece that then became something that allowed to tell people of what was going on with that. And I was finally able to bring the last piece to the last founder because that piece particularly was only for those guys.
Right.
And we're going to be doing a lot of different events this year. There's going to be the Huddle Rally that we're going to be doing together and the next CryptoCon as well. And that'll include performances and art shows and keynotes and all
Where's
that
that
kind of
gonna
stuff.
be?
The Huddle Rally is basically these 100 supercars that are going to drive from London to Paris to ending up in Ibiza, but there's the Barcelona Blockchain Summit for a couple of days is in between that whole thing.
Cool.
So I'm hoping to do another superstar project, drive with a Tesla or something like that, wrapped up in art, and do that whole thing. So that would be very, very cool. And then World CryptoCon, I think it's November 1st and 2nd in Las Vegas.
So you've got some kind of crypto news venue you were telling me about? I got about a minute left.
Yeah, News BTC is a channel in the UK. And we just basically have this thing that every couple of weeks I write an article and update what I'm doing. And if there's companies who've...
You're a traveling reporter.
No, it's just it's the perfect thing because I get to inform the crypto market directly of what it is that I'm doing, and maybe people find it interesting. So it's quite a luxury for an artist to be able to do that.
Yeah, that sounds great. And where can people find that? News BTC?
News BTC, I
search it on Google.
Yeah, I gotta find it. But if you put in News BTC and Vesa, VESA, my name, you'll find the articles.
Vesa, you are an interesting character, and I can't wait to see some of your art over there. I'd love to go see that. Go check them out. And what website can people see the best? Artbyvesa.com?
It's basically ArtforCrypto.com.
ArtforCrypto.com.
Most relevant here.
At ArtByVesa on Twitter. That's right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.